Welcome to another edition to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our mission is using the power of our story. Wait a minute, let me put on the brakes. That's my other show. I'm not doing that today. This show was originally created by one of the 300 quotes that I originally created for the contents of my books. Always curious. And with the 40 years of studying human behavior, I got together with a couple of my friends that are now all co-hosts. Naheem came up, he says, look, based on the conversation we have, every quote lands on someone a different way. So were these words that just laid on a piece of paper, or were there a conversation to be had? So we meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Everyone shows up and everyone shares their version or interpretation of the quote. I want to introduce you to my co-host. I have Miss Danielle Coleman. She's an educator over in the Bronx. I have film director, writer, producer, actor, Mr. David Curtis. I also have our other thespian over here, and he is actually the voice of our show today, Mr. Naheem Garcia. Entrepreneur, specialist, father, good man over there. Wife's a Delta. He's doing great things when it comes to Black man in the brewery space. That means brothers are making their own beer now. Mr. Curtis Battle, and our poet, and we've got plenty of poets, and you all going to know it today. We have author, we have educator, teacher, and another one. We got three of them on here that's taking care of our children, making sure that when we say free your mind, we are talking about pouring something into a cup that's needing to be filled. Our author, Benice Lopes. All right. And then we have another entrepreneur over here. This is another connected, Miss Vanessa. She's got three angels over there. I'm saying angels, young kings that are about ready to take over the world. And we got Dr. Breakthrough. He's bringing a quote today. I'm going to tell you, there's going to be some excitement in here. Earlier today, his background was on fire. We're going to see how we're going to light it up. When we got another brother from my neighborhood, both Dr. Breakthrough and Robert. We just celebrated a birthday with David and Robert, as well as myself in this month of December. Happy holidays to all of you. We have Brian Roberts, and we'll let him introduce himself as he does his share. And then when we have I don't even know how to explain what the power of this lady brings to the show, Miss Lady Larnez Kinsey. And then all the way from the islands, we have Lois Campbell. Oh, wait till you hear how she says it. When she puts that island twist on that voice over there, I mean, we all stand up and pay attention. And hi, my name is Kevin Mclemore. I am the host or co-host, whatever. I'm just here with all these beautiful people. So without any further ado, Mr. Naheem Garcia, the voice of our show, will you please share with our listeners today's quote?
Profanity. It is the result of a feeble mind attempting to sound forceful.
Mm, mm, mm. We're talking about words today, ladies and gentlemen. This quote was brought to us by Mr. Dr. Breakthrough. Stan, just real quick for those people that have tuned into the show for the first time, give us a little background on you and tell us how this quote landed on you.
All righty. Well, peace, breakthrough, and divine increase. They call me Dr. Breakthrough simply because I've had to, obviously, like many of you, had to break through a lot of barriers in life. Some people allow barriers to break them down and stop them. I allow barriers for me, that's something to break through. So anyway, I'm a 10th degree black belt, voted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame, as well as the Motivational Speaker Hall of Fame, also a minister of the gospel. And I just love empowering people, master motivator, and kingdompreneur, not entrepreneur, kingdompreneur, one who allows God to provide through me a product, service, or system to people for profit with pleasure. So happily married to the woman of my dreams, woke up, it wasn't a nightmare, it was better than I expected. We have 8 children. The last one went off to college, so now we have the empty nest. So I might be in my drawers and y'all don't know it. Excuse me. All righty. Came across you said be me, be real, but anyway, came across the quote. Anyway, I in a lot of business settings, and sometimes the language is there, and people will say, hey, looks like you have a little issue. And so I explained to them about the power of language and the cursing and profanity. Although today in the White House, it's even, coming across the White House to everywhere else, It's not a proper thing to do. And, we have to refine our language because it's a powerful thing and the power of words, and also be an example for our younger generation. So that's me. And again, I just love empowering people, and so blessed to be here with each and every one of you. So I say your breakthrough comes faster when one of your mentors is a minister and 10th degree black belt grandmaster. So you can see I'm fired up, baby. I'm fired up. Come on.
All right. I actually thought you caught me cooking in the kitchen because that's what it looks like when I'm trying to prepare something. Thank you for that share. And as we turn the page, everyone has a different perspective on the words that lay there on the page. And as we know, men are not as emotional as women. And when we've got a mother that's raising three young men, I know the way I feel about rap music. All right. I love the beat, but it doesn't need to swerve me in order for me to hear the words to the music. But I love the beat. Vanessa, how did this quote land on you?
Well, yes, it does sound feeble. First, sorry, Grand Rising to everyone. Buenos dias. Here from the beautiful sunny Florida, as most of you are in cold weather, except for Senor Vegas over there and Dr. Breakthrough in Texas.
Well, you just gave all the stalkers all of our locations right now. Thank you.
Sorry. Well, God protects us, so I don't think we're very worried. So it's funny, yes, raising three boys right now and the music industry, the profanity is crazy bananas. My children actually were introduced to a whole different environment of education when they went into the public school system. They were in Montessori private prior to us moving 2 years ago. And it's just, it's outstanding and crazy how much this industry of music and media just glamorizes it. And outstanding in a bad way, obviously. That it's just at the tip of every child's tongue. And I have to correct that behavior. And now they're becoming writers because of it. So how I discipline my children in that is I make them find a word that is opposite of what they're trying to say and write a sentence. And they have to do that 50 times. So I'm giving them education on how to express themselves in a more educated way than in a feeble way. And they think it's, being older, as, children like to grow up quicker and we like to reverse the time. It's very important to just educate our children on how to properly speak. And I think it's more impactful and people will stop when you speak with language that people don't use to express themselves and sound educated in the interim. So that's how that came across me.
All right, all right. And it's amazing when we talk about words and we use the term profanity or curse words here. I remember a time when my grandmother was correcting me in the name of God, and me being a 13-year-old smart mouth, I said, if God thought I was doing something so wrong, don't you think he would have stopped me? And she smacked me so hard upside the head, said, don't you ever use the Lord's name in vain. And I got so confused. I tried to look back and to see what I had said. It didn't sound like a curse word, but it felt like I said the same thing and got punished for it. But I also know that the expressions of words, when we have our creatives on here, such as Dave Curtis, when they're writing screenplays and telling stories, and it's part of the content of a theatrical play. In the creative world, David Curtis, when I'm going to ask our voice of the show to repeat this one more time to let you think about this quote and how this lays on the page of a screenplay, and an actor or an actress is repeating these words. How does this quote land on you? So if I may, before Dave Curtis gives his share, Naheem, quote.
Profanity. It is the result of a feeble mind attempting to sound forceful.
How does that translate over to your business and also your personal life, David?
Um, Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Naheem. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Um, when I when I when I saw the quote and I read it, the first thing that came to mind was, well, actually, when I saw that it was written by a uh, a former service member, it brought me right back to boot camp. And it also made me think of the words that were said by my company commander, and they included words that were described as the quote feeble-mindedness. And I all of a sudden I just got it was like a dichotomy of if a person who was in the military said this quote, they they too were one of the people that were using this, this feeble, quote unquote, feeble language. And that's what it immediately came to mind for myself. Um, Now, in regards to writing and creating with words, um, I guess in my older age, I'm finding it more useful to say less and show more in my writing. Yeah, because there's so much that can be said in the showing as opposed to the saying. Maybe it just comes with age that most of my words, I really think about what I say when I'm writing or when I'm speaking. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say.
Isn't it amazing the longer that we are on this planet, the more expressions and the fewer words that we say in order to get our point across. All right. We listen more than we talk. And David, you have a film that you're working on that's going to be released sometime soon. And I want to thank you for your service. And so I also want to flip the page to Danielle, educator over in Bronx Public School, private school, over there teaching our children. Okay. And I know some of these children wake up every morning and bring some of the words that their mothers and fathers and cousins and uncles give them just before they leave the house, and they think they can say them in the classroom, not knowing how it impacts everyone else around them or how it even impacts you. How did these words land on you with this quote?
Grand Rising again, everyone. You're right, Kevin. Sometimes it does start at home, or it could be from the influence of their friends encouraging them to use profanity to express themselves or fit in. Um, but on a deeper level, for children, in order for them to learn how to express themselves, we have to give them the opportunity to express themselves freely and then give them words to fill in the blanks, like Vanessa said, words that will replace those words of profanity that they use to express themselves. Because the last thing we want to do as educators is stifle them and forbid them from expressing themselves because we're critiquing how they express themselves. So this quote hit me, and it reminded me that I have to continue to encourage my students to use words to express themselves without stifling their voice.
All right. Well, when I turn to an entrepreneur, another creative on our show, Mr. Brian Roberts, and listening to Danielle, David, brother Breakthrough, his room is cooled off a little bit, but I know his seat is still hot. I was curious to know if when he stood up, if he was actually sitting in his underwear. Uh, um, this quote does make you think, because when you think about profanity as a result of a feeble mind, I've heard so many great people that were so strong-minded get up on stage and do such a great presentation and come to their homeboys and girls and say, I da 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 killed it. All right. So brother Brian celebrating his birthday, still looking like, the junior quarterback from college over there, all skin, perfect and everything over there, living in Las Vegas. I'm only saying that because Vanessa called you out. She gave your location. I'll give your address later on. But anyway, how does this quote land on you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm an actor, singer, promoter, producer. I would say really I'm a power broker. That's what I do. Um, I come from a famous family you probably heard of, the Burrell family. So Tom Burrell, R.D. Burrell, Stanley Burrell, Louis Burrell, Kim Burrell, all that's my family. My dad was actually their grandmother's nephew. So I grew up around that environment, but we also grew up around a lot of like, my dad did a lot of prison reform, a lot of things like that. My dad did a lot of laying hands on people until they recovered. That was kind of what my father did. So I always jokingly said to people, if Bernie Mac and Samuel Jackson could have merged into one dude, his name would have been Willie James Roberts. So the way my father woke me up sometimes in the morning, it was with those words, right? So this brother right here came through as a sailor. Like the sailors probably would cringe if they heard the things that I was saying. So when I played football, obviously that's how I expressed myself. My oldest uncle on my mom's side was a U.S. ambassador to Sierra Leone. That was my one. That was the uncle, right? I want to go to Howard. I'm following Uncle Noah, man, as soon as he retires. Well, he passed away. He expired at 65 years old, 1987, October. I'll never forget it. My grandma passed away December 19th, the day before my 16th birthday. She'd already had dementia. We knew that. She was 89 years old. By the way, she was born in 1898. So what happened to me being the baby, I had this resentfulness of all my older cousins having the greatest time with everyone else. And so it created this anger. And this anger came out without me being able to express it. And so I had one coach that told me, boy, you gotta be there for the game, and I didn't explain to him, hey, look, Uncle Noah just passed away in October. Because no one saw him. He was in Sierra Leone, he was in DC. I'm living in Louisville, Kentucky. Nobody knows about him. They knew about my grandmother. And he's like, it's playoff time though. And let's just say I expressed a bunch of words that I wish I could take back. I think I forgot that his daughter was in my class. You know what I mean? I didn't care, right? And then I said a few things about his mother and all that kind of stuff too. So I was suspended off the team, needless to say, right? But I did go to Thanksgiving to visit with my grandmother, and I was by her side when she passed away. So I say to people this, for someone like myself, I read it in a book one time, that it was a negative and it was bringing that toxin and it kind of fit my situation. And so what I made myself do is replace that word with something of value. You know what I mean? Whether it be a scripture, I take the Proverbs, or I take something that I could take. It could be a famous quote, whatever. But most of the time it was the word. And I was able to dumb it down to what I really wanted to say. And then I learned exactly what you said. I had more power utilizing the actual words that I actually meant, because men sometimes we don't express the best or at all. Right. And so I found myself making grown men cry with actual words that had nothing to do with me cussing. And so I realized I was helping people a little bit more. So the number one thing I would say to people, because I did a lot of restorative work, prison ministry, I'm a restoration guy. So I just want to see people whole, complete, and the best version of themselves, and facing all their adversities and loving the person they see in the mirror. So for me, it means that toxin that gets created. You mentioned the skin. It's because I smile a lot, brother. You know what I mean? Get those antioxidants going inside the body. I eat well, all those things. So that's my take.
It's amazing, the power of words. And like when we get together and we share this conversation, which are young people, they don't get a chance to sit by the fireside and listen to old heads talk. I mean, none of us walks around totally free of any sin. But as we start to grow older, we start to recognize our responsibilities and our role, not only in what we put out into the world, but the responsibilities we have within our circle. Some of us, like Denise Lopes, and many of us on here, and I think we have 4 or 5 authors on here. This is a poet, a spoken word that expresses herself not only in the classroom with the young ones, but she expresses her words on the pages of her book. And she's a poet that we all should know, Miss Denise Lopes. How does this quote land on you?
Grand Rising, bon G, everybody. Oh, this quote, I wasn't allowed to swear growing up. My grandmother made us wash our mouth with soap. I didn't do it. The boys did it, so the boys always got in trouble. So I grew up like not swearing. Like it's hard for me. Like sometimes when I'm really upset, it comes out, but I'm like, oh my God, my grandmother would be upset with me. And my children, I remember my son when he was growing up, he's been playing games. He's playing game. I go in his room, he would go, Mama's in the room. So telling his friend not to swear because if I was there, everybody would not be swearing. I was the kind too that had in my house, I had the bottle. If you swear, you pay 25 cents when my kids were growing up. So for me as a teacher, my students are English learners, so they don't know the language. Sometimes they say the word and they get in trouble and I have to explain to them because they watch a lot of YouTube and stuff. So they learning the words, but they don't know the meaning. So when they get in trouble at school, so I have to go talk to administrator, like, yeah, this kid didn't really know. So I have to explain to them. So it's just like myself not being able to swear. And when I swear, I feel bad. So it's like when I go places and I notice with my coworkers, because I'm the only educator of color, they swear a lot. Like the my white um co-workers, they swear a lot and they were like, yeah, that's how we grew up. We swear like to our mom and stuff. And I'm like, how do you swear in front of your parents? For me, I don't know, like don't do that. So school is just like, I don't know, words have power. And another thing my grandmother told me is like when you want to be someone respected, you want to be important, you need to watch your vocabulary. You need to watch what you say and who you say it in front of. So that's a thing that I am conscious about. And sometimes it comes out in Creole, like I'm really upset. My kids were like, Mom, you swear, you think we don't know what you say, but you say it in Creole. So it's weird sometimes because in the environment sometimes you at and the words people are saying, like you look at them differently. That's for me, that's how I do. Like people want to express themselves, you just have to educate. And as an educator, my students, that's what I do, educate them. That's not the word to say, this is something else. Like Vanessa said, this is a different word, and they tried for me to explain to them like why. And I'm like, because you in America, like if you do that in school, they're gonna think that's a bad word. They're gonna think like you're not educated enough, and you need to use better words. So that's how it landed on me.
I'm so glad you talked about our children and how they freely speak and not understand what they speak of. Because I experienced that in a public place, even though that in my current employment, my name is not on the sign. But when I have young people and, they're working out in the club and they're cursing and they're sharing their stories and every other between they pepper something in there that tickles my ear. And, I once asked, I said, are you allowed to say that in your home? Don't know if it's true or fact, but I've had many young kids saying, yeah, my parents allow me the curse. I've seen an actor say he allows his kids to curse in the house because it's a freedom of expression. He wants his kids not to be censored. And I'm saying on the outside part of the world, if you want your kids to themselves, express themselves, and don't use a crutch in order to tell people who they really are or they're not. So, Curtis Battles, you are a young man over on the East Coast that are dealing with the community, our young people. I'm going to ask Naheem one more time to give us the quote, give you some time to kind of take in everything that everyone else says and look at this quote talking about the results of a feeble mind. Naheem, if you don't mind, I love hearing your voice, man. Love hearing your voice. Go ahead.
Profanity. It is the result of a feeble mind attempting to sound forceful.
All right, Battles.
Merry Christmas to all. I hope that you have a joyful season here this week and that 2025 is an amazing year for everyone. So I do a lot of mentoring with young men through the 100 Black Men here up in Connecticut. And so sometimes we find that it's the anger that these young folks are carrying that really leads them to wanting to use profanity. Some of it may be from the media that they take in, but it's just that they're in a lot of ways frustrated from the life that they're in right now. So we try to help them redirect their emotions in a more positive fashion through various activities and exposure to new and different things. We'll take them out for the first time on a ski and snowboard trip. We'll help them with involved in doing Lego robotics. We'll take them to a place where they can learn about medicine and have a hands-on experience in actually what it's like to work through that. And what I've found through this is that you see a change. You see a change in these young folk as they get to redirect their minds in a new direction, and that they really are thinking, is that when I was saying that, did I really know what I was saying, or was I just repeating something? So it's as Dr. Breakthrough has said, and a couple of the other folks, that when you replace the bad with the good, you see a new direction by putting a positive view in their minds rather than a negative view in their minds. So this is how the quote fell on me.
It's amazing. And I thank everyone to this point that is you're sharing. It just hit on me. You know, we have so many authors that are on this platform. Are you not amazed? The more people read, the more people write, clarity is in their words in their everyday conversation. They don't have to carry the crutch of a word that express something that will either build or destroy, but the words have purpose and power behind each word. Have you ever noticed that? I bet coming from a Jamaican background, okay, you know, when you say good morning, the way you say that, where you shake your hand and say thank you for shaking my hand, when it comes across from a Jamaican accent, and I know I will tell you this: the first time I went to Jamaica, um, we had our first president, being a Black president, being elected. I had never felt more proud in my life of being a Black man, because I was always told that we would never, ever, in my lifetime, my children's, my grandchildren's lifetime, ever see a Black man in the White House without a broom or a mop. And look what we said. Look what we saw. Thank you, Barack Obama, for making a dream come true. To break that glass. No, you didn't break the glass ceiling. You gave out the combination of what it's going to take to change this world. Is be the example you want your children to see. So, Lois Campbell, how's this quote land on you?
Thank you, Kevin. And I have to concur with you with that statement regarding President Barack Obama. I've had a lot of BS that I'd never live long enough to see it, but I'm proud Jamaican. So when it comes to language, we have to be careful. Profanity, words take on different meaning over time. But for me, it's really culture and context, like you said, because I am from Jamaica. And in Jamaica, like a female dog is called a bitch. Look at me calling someone a bitch in America. I'll be like, maybe slap, pop, pop. But for me, it's a regular thing. It's a female dog is a bitch, and we use it like, and it's okay. The other thing is hearing Doc says about I could be in my drawers and you don't even know it. That could be an offense to me. The way how it's just context or culture or how you present it, or so it's just different things mean different people, or different times things comes over in a different way. But for instance, the word run we could use it as in so many ways. We run for presidency. So in Jamaica, we say, run, come, child, or run, come here. And we also say, if you mix colored clothes with white clothes, it will run. So it's just the context or culture. For me, it's culture or context that different things mean different things to different people. So I could be saying something that could seems like profanity to someone because that's the culture that they grew up in. And we know that a lot of cultures, the curse word is just like a regular word every day. So does that mean they have a feeble mind? I personally don't think so. So for me, it's on a broader context. It's on a broader scope where, of course, I'll try to avoid words that's gonna offend someone. I'm not gonna purposely just go cursing like I'm stupid or something, but it's just the context and the culture for me. Thank you.
And like everything else, we are all going through something every single day. We all have our triggers, and words, they have power. They either build or they destroy.
Mhm.
And we all are walking around triggered. As you drink your truly hydration water, lemongrass, that's going to be one of our sponsors. I love the water itself. I use it. It keeps me hydrated on a cellular basis. And I'm not even being paid to advertise this product right now. But I want to thank you for your share, especially when you come from a culture when language does not describe or define you for your strength, for your mindset. And others truly over there. Look at that. Everyone's connected. Wait till you see some of the other people that's going to be carrying truly. A lot of our big time entertainers are about to get their first case soon. Larnez. All right, Larnez. This when you talk about a gift, and we're all gifted on here. Larnez is the Christmas present that you unwrap before Christmas Day. All right, because you just can't wait to see what's coming next. So, Larnez, how does this quote land on you?
Grand Rising, everyone. So first, before I even dive into the quote, this made me think of a conversation I had with my 10-year-old because raising kids in 2024 is different. So obviously her father gave her a pass to say a curse inside of a song when she was singing the song, and she thought she had a lifetime pass. Yeah. So we had to sit down and explain to her that, yeah, you don't have a lifetime pass to curse and say this word anytime you want to cut up on a person, because that's what they call dissing now, cutting. So obviously the kids were cutting up a teacher. And yeah, we've been brought into the school to have a conversation. And that's when the conversation between her and her dad in the car 5 months ago happened, when she got the pass to say a curse word in one song. So yeah, saying curse words is not a good thing. But now how I looked at this quote, when you're in a space where everyone's moving fast, where energy is loud and communication is direct, people respect what hits. And I get it. Profane language might grab somebody's ear, but it doesn't hold their mind. It's like when you're in a car and you blast a horn in traffic. It may grab attention for a second, but it doesn't move anything forward. When you're relying on profanity to get your point across, it's like you're trying to bulldoze your way into a conversation without taking the time to finesse your words. Real power, real respect, that comes when words have weight because they're clear, sharp, and intentional, not just loud and shocking. It's about knowing how to navigate the energy of the space and delivering something that sticks in a culture where everyone is hustling to be heard. The ones who stand out aren't just the ones that shout the loudest or curse the hardest. It's the ones that cut through the noise with meaning, with precision, and with something that makes people stop and think, not just react. So the next time you're tempted to lean into the string of profanities that you know, ask yourself, am I trying to make noise or am I trying to make an impact? Because the ones who masters the words you speak, they master the room. And that's how this hit me.
Right. Wait a minute. Do I pick up the mic? Do I pick up the mic? Oh no, that's Naheem. Man, oh
No,
man, oh
no.
man, oh man.
What
Everyone's
more needs to
wiping
be
their
said?
everyone's wiping their brow. They're saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't follow that." But unfortunately, Naheem, you have done some incredible things. I've seen you on stage give 5 pages of dialogue and handle yourself well. I mean, you were so exciting in the last August Wilson play that I seen you in. When coming towards the end, I still got to come back and see it because when Larnez jumped, I missed the whole ending of the whole play. It's like you're gonna have to do the ending for me. So, following Larnez, I'm going to ask you before I give my take on this to repeat the quote for our listeners that just tuned in, and for those who have stayed with us, and then tell us how this quote, because you work with young people. I mean, Naheem is one of those young brothers that has made it out of the neighborhood and stayed in the neighborhood, have tried to save brothers. He's the one person that can walk in either side of the gang and walk out whole and leave something for them to think about. This man is saving not only our young children, but our old children that seem to be stuck in a way that does not allow them progress or fame. So Naheem, how's this conversation and this quote? How's it land on you?
Profanity is the result of a feeble mind attempting to sound forceful. Hell, I love swearing. It's a great thing. It feels so good to get it off. But as a teacher, and as a person dealing with society, I've seen how much it limits. Looking at our young people, and I was in class the other day. Let me go back a little bit. I did a workshop last week. We did an audition clinic, and one of the scripts that we were using was Kenyatta's, but this one happened to have a lot of the F bomb, F and F and F and this, and I'm like, wait a minute, who picked this? And hearing it, even though it was funny, it sounded ugly. And I wish I had found something else because I would have loved to see people. I would love to see people express themselves differently. My last class at Boston Casting, I had all of these individuals, some from different parts of the world, and I had a few that looked like me. And one of them had a monologue he came out with, and it was just very neighborhood, very local. Now, this is a young man who's a social worker. He's a young man that went to college. He's a young man that is very intelligent. And when he did this monologue, and he used the N-word. And I said to him, well, when you use it, why don't you try to lighten it up a little bit so we don't really get so focused on that word because it sounded ugly, even though I use it myself among ourselves, but it sounded ugly. And then I go to school to work with some young people, and I'm looking at my young people, and I'm looking at they no longer worry about a dictionary. They no longer worry about looking up a word. They replace everything with, an F or B or the N. And there's a whole conversation, and those are the words being used. And what I notice is that it not only limits your vocabulary, but it limits your creative ability, your ability to see the world through other words, your ability to be able to express yourself without having to do that. Not only that, you don't always have control. One day you might be in an environment and you forget that you're around your mother-in-law, your father, or anybody else, and all of a sudden it slips out because you use it so much. So we practice, using these words because they're expressive. They're expressive. But what did I say? Are you making noise? Or are you making a point? And sometimes people think that swearing is the way to go. And what I'm seeing with young people, especially young urban people, it's used more because that's the only vocabulary they got. They don't try to use large words because half of them don't understand it. It doesn't mean anything. And in their world, this is the language we speak in. So what I'm going to say is that you also got to learn how to speak the other languages. So you'll know how to communicate to all people at any time when needed. Now, mind you, when you go to the neighborhood, yeah, drop it. Hey, boom, boom, because that's how they communicate. But what happens is that when they step out of the community, they can't talk. They can only talk the way they know how. And it sounds ignorant to the ears of other people who do not live in that community. So I also noticed that it's limiting the way of life culturally, how they're living, how they're moving, how they're operating, and there's a certain limit. They limit themselves because of the language. Now, not only do you not speak, you only speak to a certain crowd of people because you can't speak outside of your language. Now, culturally, it is affecting how you think about education and how you feel about learning. When a kid walks in talking about, I don't feel like doing this, I don't want to read. And a lot of times because they can't use the words, they don't know how to use the words. Like Denise said, you got to educate them on what they're saying so they'll know how to use it. And it's fascinating when they start to learn, when we say, you know what? I like that monologue you did, but I want to see you do some Shakespeare and see how that feels like. I can get you a Shakespeare monologue that might say the same thing you just said to your homeboy, except it'll be different words. So words are powerful. Words are beautiful, but they're not when we're limited to how we know how to use them. So that's how this thing fell on me. And I want to say Feliz Navidad, Prospero Año. I love you all. Vanessa, saludo. And, I always have to throw it out there a little bit because when you do see, here's one thing about language. You didn't see me coming when I started speaking Spanish, did you? Yeah.
It's amazing for our listeners to our panel that listen to this conversation. I was always taught that education is not designed to make you comfortable. It's designed to make you think. And with each and every share that we've had on here around a very simple phrase, based on interpretation and perspectives, we've all had a different spin on it, but we've all said the same thing. All right. Cultural differences, neighborhood conversation, but also I want you to understand sometimes the way we speak provides an open door to an opportunity. And sometimes the way we phrase, the way we think, exposes us to people that could provide us an opportunity that may limit the opportunities you may have. So be conscious of your words. So when this quote first came up, profanity is the result of a feeble mind attempting to sound forceful. The first thing that I said, I can't wait to hear what this is going to say. Words can either build you something or destroy something that you've been trying to build. Or your words can be the first brick that's tossed through your living room window. I remember living on 559 Cedarhurst Avenue in Dayton, Ohio. The reason why I use that quote when I speak on stage, because to today, I will not sit with my back against a window because my mother was the president of a civil rights group, Action Incorporated. And we had this large glass window that every now and then someone was creative enough to say baseball practice started with a brick and went through our window. So here's what I've learned about words. Okay. On their own, they're just words. Put them together, they begin to tell a story. Sometimes they reveal the story within you, and sometimes they reveal the story about you. Today, most people are walking around offended by something. They can be easily triggered by something you said or based on their interpretation of something they think you said or heard. While this quote has a nice, this quote is very nice, which we're trying to censor someone's expression, we also have to be mindful of saying not to endorse a conversation with curse words as a way of saying who you are and what you are. So what I'm actually saying is that your words need to get a point across. And the better that you say it, the more likely you are to be heard. I have said this to myself, and profanity is an expression of oneself. I've also said profanity is the limit of the vocabulary of one's true self. As I've heard many famous people say, and I've said this earlier, that I've seen them give dynamic speeches on stage and then come back and says, I effing killed it, or whatever the case may be. And be it wrong or right, I think Lois said it earlier, doesn't define you as being strong or weak. It's an expression of that moment and that space and feeling comfortable within that space. My grandfather said, and I think this is where this came up because we had two people that said the same words in different contents, and one was delivered by a military person that he was being taught by, and he quoted that. And I said, my grandfather, who I believe was one of the strongest and smartest people that I've known that has been in my life and has made a great impact. He said, free your mind. And I'm going to say this, and please don't be offended. Hear me out first. Free your mind and your ass will follow. To someone standing on the edge of the conversation and hearing this for the first time, they may be triggered in a negative way, and their emotions may make them think about me in another way. But when I first heard this quote, we weren't allowed to curse in my house. This was the very first curse word I ever heard. And my grandfather said, he says, if you were a farmer dressing your donkey for a long day's work in the field, this phrase may be well suited for the day of the farmer that's standing in front of the donkey that's in front of him. So give some thought to the power of your words, and also give some grace to the person saying those words. If you're an educator, allow that person, if they're open, to being educated. But the best example of a true educator is the person standing in front of you that's educating you. So I always say this, be the example of what you want your children to see. Understand the power of your words. They were either built or they were destroyed. So I always say, turn the page of the next book, because the best secrets has ever been said has been kept in the power of a book. And to all my people on here that are authors, I say thank you for putting your life, your words, and your commitment to change in a book. And I think, with the exception of maybe one or two, everyone in here has written the word on a piece of paper, if not all of us. And so to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this show. If you enjoyed it, go to our YouTube page, RMK Productions and Network, and subscribe and share this. Present this to someone that is struggling and looking for answers. Present it to someone that looks outside their window and they don't see anyone doing anything better with their life that looks like them, and said, look, there's a whole panel of people that's pouring into you every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's when we meet. So with that said, my grandfather said, and he has said this to many times, when you get to a point in life that you can help someone else out, he said it's your duty to do so. And with that said, we what?
Fade to black.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're out. Thank you. Until next week, enjoy your holiday.